Hello and welcome to today's VMware webcast. Before we get started, there are a couple of housekeeping items that I would like to go over. First, we want to make this session as interactive as possible and encourage you to ask questions at any time using the question and answer box located to the left of the slides window. You can also use the question and answer box to get technical assistance if you should need it. The tabs located in the question and answer box are where you can find additional information about today's presentation. Today's presentation features streaming audio only, so there's no need to dial into a teleconference. You'll need to make sure that your computer speakers are turned up in order to hear the presenter and today's content. You can also fine-tune the audio by using the volume controls inside the media window. This presentation console allows you to interact and customize the layout to fit your viewing needs. You can collapse and expand any window on the console just like you would on your desktop by dragging the corners in or out. In addition, you can also maximize or close any of the windows on your screen by clicking the corresponding icon in the upper right-hand corner of each of the windows. At any time, you can reset the console to the default layout and access additional presentation functionality using the widgets at the bottom of your screen. Now I'd like to turn things over to today's presenter to get things started.
Welcome everybody to our new webcast series where we're going to be talking about scaling your virtual desktop and application to the cloud for remote work. Joining me today is Pablo Cruces, who is Staff Customer Success Architect. I'm Christophe Lombard, Senior Customer Success Architect working in the Customer Success team. In today's agenda, we're going to be talking first on the business context and market dynamics. And we'll be also talking about the traditional workspace challenges. Then we'll be talking about the benefits of running Horizon on VMware Cloud on AWS. Third, Pablo is going to be doing a technical deep dive on the solution. So what are the architecture and what are the components of Horizon on VMware Cloud on AWS. And we will finish our presentation by talking about the benefits, giving you some collateral information and information on how to do the sizing with useful links about information which are important on VMware Cloud on AWS with Horizon. Let's start our conversation by talking about the current challenges with traditional workspace management. So customers most of the time are looking for implementing VDI solutions to reduce the complexity. They are looking for a way to easily deliver and manage their workspace. They are also seeking for a way to generate less support calls. This means they probably have to harmonize the workspace offerings and sometimes consolidate the devices to a single model. They are also trying to avoid unexpected costs. So it could be maintenance cost, it could be renewal costs, as well as time spent to fix an issue that can conduct to productivity loss. Security and compliance are also top concern for companies today. They are looking for a way to centralize the data as well as being able to enforce security on devices whenever they have to onboard new users and they have to handle new devices. One important thing as well they need to address is the fact that they address different needs for different group of users. With different working patterns. For instance, they may have some salespeople, which are very mobile workers that needs to have specific applications running on specific devices. Sometimes they are running application on devices that have never been used in the company. And it can also be office workers or warehouse workers that have similar or different working patterns. So if an organization wants to leverage VDI and adopt this concept more broadly in a seamless and integrated manner, it's going to face a lot of challenges. Let's talk about them. So first of all, we have the inefficient data center scalability. So it sometimes can be a challenge if a data center has no room left for growth or need capacity expansion whenever the company needs to extend its workforce, for instance, because of hypergrowth or because of a merger or acquisition. There is also sometimes a deployment constraint, so the need for additional or temporary desktop pool for needs like seasonal spike or disaster recovery. So that can be very hard to anticipate and complex to manage because it requires to deploy a large number of devices in a very short time. Sometimes also when company is embracing a digital transformation, they move workloads to the public cloud, but in many cases, the virtual desktop is going to stay on premises. And this can conduct to some latency issue, as well as performance issue for the applications that can conduct to a bad user experience. In order to be able also to react quickly whenever there is a disaster, a company needs a significant amount of resources ready to be used, which means they may waste a lot of money to run these sitting idle assets. Let's have a look at the market dynamics. So there is a global shift to the remote workforce at the moment and flexible workspace. As more employees are expected to work remotely, it means that IT must deploy and secure and manage a virtual desktop infrastructure and make it accessible from different devices in different locations. So we can see that VDI is becoming a natural extension of a cloud migration at the moment. And now the desktop can be virtualized along with an organization application. VDI has historically been deployed in specific verticals. We see that in media or healthcare or engineering, but today VDI is found in almost every industry. VDI deployments are poised to increase significantly as the result of security, cost, and productivity benefits as well. So the usage of VDI has grown significantly in terms of the number of businesses using it, and the appetite to expand this VDI implementation is strong, given the experience and success that current users have had with the delivery model. Also, what we can see is the evolving endpoint and OS landscape is impacting a lot the VDI strategies as companies evaluate their business continuity plans and enable remote work. So work from home policies, for instance, the usage of personal devices will become more and more important. So there are multiple studies, and I would like to specifically talk about the enterprise strategy group that states that 61% of future VDI users are really using the cloud infrastructure as a provider and as a landing zone for this VDI project. And nearly 75% of the respondents say that it was very critical and very important that the cloud solutions would be compatible and integrate with their on-premises deployment. So one big benefit of the cloud is that it allows for a shift between this CapEx model to OpEx model. So meaning that you don't have to invest a lot of money in advance in a costly infrastructure without knowing your capacity needs. You don't have to invest a lot of money into resources you may not have to consume. This OpEx approach is a model where you will pay only for the resources that you are consuming, and this is a better way in terms of cost optimization. So there is an obvious advantage of the cloud, but let's look at it in more details. So when it comes to deploy the VDI infrastructure, there are three options that the customers can choose. First of all, they can deploy on premises. So this means that they need to have the infrastructure to meet the demand, the current demand. They probably also need to have a buffer to meet upside demand. So this is really a buffer capacity that can be used whenever there is a specific needs that come or that needs to have additional resources to be deployed. And because also sometimes there is a peak in demand, they need to have this capacity ready to be consumed. So as we can see on the CapEx spend, a lot of the capacity is going to be specifically wasted and because not obviously used for capacity needs. There is a hybrid architecture model which allow for building the data center for the average use and leverage the cloud for specific needs to absorb the peaks. So this is where the CapEx spend would be lower, and the consumer of the solution will start having the cloud delivery model leveraged. There is the latest one, which is running everything in the cloud, where there is minimal CapEx to get things up and running, and you can pay as you go and have a OpEx spend, which is the more optimized way of delivering such an infrastructure. So obviously, this analysis is based on cloud capacity, which provides the resources on which to run the desktops. And Horizon itself is not licensed by the hour, but rather by months, year, or longer. So let's have a look now on VMware Cloud on AWS for people who don't know the solution. It's a jointly engineered solution delivered by VMware. AWS is providing the underlying global infrastructure, and VMware is running SDDC software on top of this infrastructure. Basically, VMware is delivering three components: vSphere for the compute virtualization, vSAN for the storage virtualization, and NSX-T for the networking stack. NSX-T allows for connectivity from on-premises data center, so we can see that on the left. There is a multiple way to interconnect your on-premises data center to the VMware Cloud on AWS. You can leverage IPsec VPN, or you can also leverage direct connectivity by using direct connect solutions from AWS. On the right, there is a direct connectivity from VMware Cloud on AWS to AWS services. And any customer can start, replatforming some of the traditional workloads running on VMC to these new cloud services by leveraging, for instance, S3 or Lambda or Redshift or any relational database services. There is a direct connectivity, high-speed connectivity between VMware Cloud on AWS and AWS Cloud Native Services. What the solution also is proposing is HCX. This is the mobility platform that allow for migrating applications from on-premises to the cloud very seamlessly without having to re-IP the applications, without having to stop the application. So it could be a bulk migration. Multiple applications can be migrated in a very short time, seamlessly and safely from on-prem to the cloud. So VMC on AWS is available in multiple regions and support all of those regions also for Horizon. So this allows us not only to move application closer to the users groups, but also allow to open up our option like disaster recovery and obviously virtual desktops. VMware is also committed to support the main compliance and security standards of the market. So we are supporting GDPR, we are supporting PCI DSS, and a lot of regulatory and industry certification. Let's see what are the differences between Horizon on-premises and Horizon on VMware Cloud on AWS. So if we think about the Horizon deployment on-premises, the entire stack is managed by the customer. So not only the customer is responsible for Horizon and the desktop, but as well as the underlying infrastructure on top of which the Horizon and desktops are running. Horizon on VMware Cloud on AWS is an infrastructure as a service model where the customer is only responsible for managing the desktops and the Horizon solution, and VMware is going to be taking care of the cloud-based SDDC hosted on AWS as a managed services. So VMware will take care of the maintenance of all of the underlying infrastructure underneath, as well as on the stack, the software stack, the SDDC stack. It's important to call out that Horizon on VMware Cloud on AWS is not a desktop as a service solution. We have another solution for that. So Horizon, so migrating or extending a virtual desktop application to the public cloud brings a lot of flexibility, obviously. But it requires a significant number of person hours, an assortment of tools, and implies substantial risk and constraints. So with VMware Cloud on AWS, and when customers are leveraging this platform to run Horizon, customer may benefit in several ways. First of all, VMware Cloud on AWS simplifies the management of remote desktops. A feature to automatically patch the desktop when user logs off eliminates the maintenance windows for patching, for instance. Second, we have the fast provisioning of the infrastructure, so we can spin up in about 10 minutes a new host, and we can spin up in 1 to 2 seconds a new desktop, and using the just-in-time capability to improve user experience and optimize costs. Third, we have this space efficiency instant cloud feature that allow for sharing a based operating system image between multiple users. And this allow for up to 80% of reduction in the storage consumption. So very compelling solutions for improving storage efficiency. And the latest one is that we can leverage unique cloud services. About 175 services can be accessible from VMware Cloud on AWS to AWS to modernize existing application and create new modern application and provide unique capabilities for the end users. Let's talk about some of the use cases that are enabled by Horizon VMware Cloud on AWS. So the biggest use case that we are seeing are around data center expansion. So this means extending your on-prem data center into the cloud to support cloud initiative that you might have as a customer. Second one is the data and application locality. So as you move your application on premises to the cloud and start getting advantages from running cloud native services, you need to be able to deliver a good user experience. So that's why it's very important that you run as well the virtual desktop close to the running application in the cloud. Could be a publish application in VMC, could be running directly in AWS as a cloud native services, and this bring a better user experience in that matter. Another big use case that we see is disaster recovery and business continuity, especially for Horizon on-premises deployment. One of the big challenges that we see is that you need to have an infrastructure ready to go in the event of a disaster. And this can be often an expensive proposition in terms of capital investment. So with VMware on cloud on AWS and running Horizon on VMC, you can run a small pilot light environment that has your critical components like Active Directory, Horizon infrastructure, as well as a file server with all the data replicated from on-premises. And that can be used to support your virtual desktop whenever there is a disaster. We see also the use case of temporary desktop and application capacity. So think of it as a burst capacity to support short-term users who are coming in before you give them physical desktop. This could be also crash work from home initiatives so that your employees can work from home if they don't have a laptop. And also a good use case for that could be mergers and acquisitions. The latest one is the quick POC for Horizon on-premise. So this can go two ways. First, you are interested in evaluating Horizon, but you don't have a live environment to stand it up in. So you just want to test the capability of Horizon before investing in on-premises infrastructure. And another use case that we see is also testing upgrades. So where you can spin up a temporary lab in VMC and test your upgrade process and then tear it down when you are done. So very interesting use cases that you can cover by Horizon on VMC. So let's talk about customer examples. So I would like to talk about PennyMac loan services. Who is using a combination of AWS native services and VMC workloads. With over than 8,000 concurrent VDI users worldwide, so a very large number of users. So PennyMac is basically the third largest loan producer in the US. So they believe that running their application and platform for virtual desktop on top of the cloud gives them an advantages versus the competition because of the elastic nature of the cloud. Basically, they have started their transformation back in 2017 when they kicked off their migration journey. And they have, at that moment, identified two large workloads that were running on their on-premises infrastructure. The first one was application infrastructure, and the second one was the VDI infrastructure. So they choose to re-platform the first one to AWS native services. And on the VDI side, they first started by leveraging AWS Workspace, but realized very quickly that it was not the right solution for them because of the way they were operating their VDI on premises. So Fortunately, at that moment, VMware released the VMC on AWS support for Horizon, and they start embark with VMware and test the platform. So at the same moment, they were growing very fast and had to hire a lot of new people. So they did not have the appetite, to acquire new hardware in the on-premises environment, and they decided to onboard all of their new employees on the VMC platform. So very quickly, they realized the user experience as far of their desktop performance was significantly better than the experience on premises. And because the implementation was so simple and straightforward, they end up migrating all their 4,000 employees in less than 6 months, which makes possible to complete their VDI migration to the cloud a full year ahead of schedule. And today they are running VDI on 7 SDDCs with 8,000 concurrent users. VMC on AWS allow them to scale in ways not previously possible. They saw a huge reduction on their deployments in the farm to be able to provision additional desktops. And what used to take them 2 months on average to add capacity is not taking them under than 10 minutes. So we're going to switch now to the more technical deep dive part of the presentation. And I'm going to start by talking about the Horizon core components. So this is the on-premises components. So in a typical connection, what we see is that we are going to have the Horizon client, which can be installed or using the HTML access client on the browser that is going to authenticate to the Horizon connection server. The Horizon connection server is going to authenticate the user towards the Active Directory server. And then it will send back the resource that the user were entitled to. And the protocol session is going to be started over to the agent running inside the virtual desktop. And then the Horizon client will get the access to the final desktop and published applications. So when there is an external connection, so an external connection means it could be either from the internet, inbound, or it could be also between different security zones internally. The Horizon client in that case will communicate directly through a VMware Unified Access Gateway. We call it UAG. This is an appliance. This appliance is going to broker the authentication in a very similar manner as when we were not connecting from the external world. And also it will form a protocol session. And this protocol session will go via the Unified Access Gateway. The initial authentication phase of a connection is from the Horizon client to the Unified Access Gateway and then to the connection server. And the protocol sessions will go then from the Horizon client to the Unified Gateway and then to the Horizon agent. Let's talk about one of the key concepts for architecting Horizon. So the first one is the pod and block architecture. So with this model, what we are trying to do is use a repeatable way of designing Horizon deployment to get predictable performance. A pod is made up of a group of interconnected connection servers that broker connection to desktops or published applications. Basically, a pod is divided into multiple blocks to provide scalability. Each block is made of one or more vSphere clusters, and each block has its own vCenter server controlling them. vSphere clusters are where we are going to run the workloads, the desktop, as well as the remote desktop servers. And customers can add more blocks up until to get to a certain point, and the point is defined by a certain scale. So we can get to this scale, and this is defined by the number of connections that a connection server can support. How many connections we can drive to those connection servers is depending on the capacity of a pod, and a pod can broker up to 20,000 sessions, and we recommend 12,000 sessions, including desktop and remote desktop servers, so meaning published application sessions. Multiple pods are a single entity to end user using Cloud Pod architecture. So let's talk about the Cloud Pod architecture. And I'm going to hand it over to Pablo, who is going to give you a technical deep dive on the Cloud Pod architecture and all of the features of VMware Cloud on AWS with Horizon. Pablo, over to you.
Thank you, Christophe. Hi, everyone. Let's go with some deep details about the architecture. Now we know, thank you to Christophe, about the pods, the components of the Horizon. So how can we deliver a good architecture? How can we make an hybrid cloud? How can we deploy different pods in different areas? So first of all, let's go with a single case of use where you can deploy one pod on your on-premises data center and a second pod on VMware Cloud on AWS. And it means we can create an Horizon global data layer between both of them. As Christophe said, we have a pod with all the details, all the components of Horizon and the compute, and then another one on VMware Cloud on AWS. It's the federated desktop pool way of doing. It will help us to create a resource aggregation, which means you can deliver desktops in different sites, on premises and on cloud. It also gives you the ability to have a simple and simplified entitlement, which means you can use a single and global policy rule to deploy all the rules that you can have on your environment. And last but not least, you will have a single URL access, which means you will access only one URL to go to any pod of the environment. Which things do we need to have in consideration for deployment and scale our model? We have mainly two ways of doing. First of all, we call the native VMware Cloud on AWS when we deploy everything on a single SDDC. One pod is one SDDC, and one SDDC contains just one single vCenter, which means every pod has their single vCenter. Every pod can have more or less until 2,000 sessions. It's because the number will depend on the workloads. If you have applications inside your desktops and they are consuming a lot of compute resources, it could be lower or even higher if they are consuming not so much resources. The other way to doing this is the Federated Ec2, which is you will deploy the Horizon components on Amazon EC2 instances. And then on the SDDCs, you will deploy the compute resources. You can combine up to 6 SDDCs, so it means you can scale up 12,000 sessions, obviously combining multiple pods to scale as needed. Let's go on an illustrative way of this deployment model. On the left side, what you have is the native VMware Cloud on AWS. In this case, you have 2 pods, 2,000 VS per pods, and everything is contained on a single pod. In the right side, what you can see is all the components, the connection servers, the AV managers, the UAGs, and the UMs are deployed in EC2 instances on your AWS VPC. And then on the SDDCs, you deploy only the resources group. If we do a zoom, you can see how on a single pod you will have the resource pool with the desktops and the published apps, and the Horizon management resource with the connection server, the UAGs, and the databases. Usually, we try to deploy 2 of connection servers and 2 of Unified Access Gateway to give more redundancy and load balancing. And then in the background, you will have the VNC layer, which is mainly the vCenter, NSX, and also vSAN for the storage. Now we know which is a pod, how we can combine that, and how can we create an architecture. Let's see how we can connect. This is not black magic. This is quite simple. So to connect your on-premises data center to the VMware Cloud on AWS, you have mainly 2 ways to do it. One by internet and the other one by a direct connect. By internet, you can use an IPsec VPN, for example, and through the direct connect, what you will have is a low latency connectivity. So if you have a high demanding applications and you need a low latency to allow them running well, you will need to use direct connect. When this connectivity arrives to VMware Cloud on AWS, it will arrive through two ways: Internet Gateway or the Virtual Private Gateway. Both of them are connected to the T0 router, which is one of the main things of NSXT. NSXT is the underlying for network and security that we have on VMware Cloud on AWS. And it helps us to split the traffic and isolate both of them from the management gateway to the compute gateway. As you can see here on the management gateway, you will find the management things for VMs in AWS, NSX, vCenters, ESXis. And in the compute gateway, you will have the rest of the compute resources. Also, the things regarding the Horizon management. So now we have the connectivity. We can think about the balancing because even 2,000 desktops, it's a lot. So how can we articulate that? We can use, for example, the VMware NSX Advanced Load Balancer, which helps us to distribute the traffic between two UAGs. And also behind this one, you can use also another one to distribute the traffic between the connection servers. It helps you to reduce the workloads. It helps you to get more high availability, and it's all balancing. So it's the underlying of NSXT. So that's everything on the NSX console where you can use some VNC on AWS. But what happens if we want to do multi-path architecture in multiple sites? You can do that thanks to the Universal Broker, which creates an Horizon control plane that gives you the ability to connect to different pods in different sites. In this example, what we have is one pod in San Francisco, one pod in New York, and one pod in Tokyo in Azure. So you can see that you can deliver Horizon on top other public service providers. So it helps you to minimize the network traffic of the corporate land. It helps to create a unified entitlement layer across desktop and apps, and it gives you the possibility to connect on-premises to public cloud. And now we can connect everything. We can define an architecture, and it's so easy and simplify it. What's going on with the desktops? Because if we can create an environment, but it will take a lot of time to deploy the desktops, we are not getting value. So we can go really fast thanks to the instant clone smart provisioning capacity. It means that you will have a replica of a VM that will be copied and creating pool of parent VMs. It means that it will take, as Christoph said before, like 1 or 2 seconds to deploy a new VM. So this is an automatic provisioning of instant clones without requiring a parent VM. It will help you also to free disk space, a bit of memory, and also get more consolidation ratio in every single host. This is one of the reasons because we can get up to 2,000 sessions per host. So right now we can install everything, deploy everything super fast. What's about the security, which is the value of having something, for example, on VMware Cloud and AWS. And there are something called Intrinsic Security, which gives you 3 things mainly. It's encryption, so your data will be privacy, and it will only be able decrypted by you, by the customers. Also, you will have microsegmentation, which is something that deliver NSX, and it's not only north and south firewall. Microsegmentation means you can do firewalling between east and west side. An example, in the same subnet, you have a lot of desktops, and then you can create subset, applying, for example, tags for different groups, and they cannot see each other, even they are on the same subnet. So it helps you also to complete and have access control to everything, and also centralize patching against vulnerabilities thanks to the compliance ability. So you don't need to go and update every single desktop. It's something that you can do from the single pane of glass and just update everything and have everything standardized. So we were talking about desktops mainly. What's going on with applications? So to deliver really quick and really fast applications, we have something about powered by App Volumes, which is the application management technology. It gives you the possibility, having a catalog of applications, to attach these applications to different users. So when they connect to this desktop, they will have the option to see the applications that they are allowed to check in. So it gives you the possibility to deploy apps really quick and do rollbacks. If something is needed, you can detach this application from the desktop and then retouch again another one, or even if they need to change for versions or things like that. And also it simplifies the lifecycle management, because when you update, let's say the master one, everything will be updated on all the desktops because all of them are linked to the main one. Let's now summarize some of the benefits of doing a hybrid VDI on VMware Cloud on AWS. First of all, simplicity. It's really simple and really easy to scale virtual desktops across private and public clouds and manage all of them from a single control plane. That's really important. You don't need to have different control planes if you deploy pods in different sites or different public clouds. Second one, security. As I said, because of the intrinsic security we built into our VMware infrastructure, everything is protected, also your network and your data. The speed, of course, the rapid provisioning is something that we deliver with instant clone and with the app volumes, and also simplify the day two management of the image, the apps, the profiles, and the policies. And at the end, it reduces time. So at the end, it's cost, it's money. You are affording money because you are doing the things much more faster. As Christophe said on the example, the customer PennyMac found new ways to do the things and also more quick than they were doing on promises. The scale, main case, you can scale your VDI infrastructure to VNC on AWS. For example, deploying VNC on AWS, a cluster which is up and running, it could take around 2 hours, more or less, and then it's ready. Then you can start to deploy things on top there. So many customers in the last times were looking for, I don't have capacity. It takes a lot of time to order hardware, install everything, configure everything, validation, and so on. And with VNC and AWS, it's really quick and really fast. And last, the user experience. Obviously, it's great to have all users have the possibility to connect from every single remote location to any desktop or any app. So they will have this security on the connectivity. It will be faster if they need to deploy something new, and they can work everywhere. Even most customers are doing this inside their own companies because they prefer to have everything centralized on the cloud and just use it as a burst or for new demands or for small projects when they need just a small capacity, or a big one, but for a certain time of period or things like that. So hot topic right now is Microsoft licensing. First of all, I have to say this is for educational purpose and this is not legal advice. Okay, we are referring here about a frequently asked question where you can see the link and you can click there and go to all the information, because this is a big spreadsheet. Okay, so let's highlight some of these topics. Can I use my existing Microsoft Windows Server, SQL Server, desktop, and Offices licenses for VMware Cloud on AWS? In general, for Windows Server, you should consider leveraging VMware SPLA. The SPLA is the new license agreement that Microsoft did with service providers, because in 2019, they changed some of the rules of how this licensing model works for public clouds. They need to adapt their model to the public clouds. So there is a document that we recommend you to read and to double check it. For SQL, in general, you should consider moving your own licenses to VMware Cloud on AWS. What's going on with Office 365? In general, no. Office 365 is a subscription and it has their own model and how it works. So you cannot bring that licenses to VMware Cloud on AWS. What happens with Office 2016 and 2019? Some licensing rules as Windows and SQL perpetual licenses, and it's outlined in the frequently asked questions, as I said. Desktops, the same rule as perpetual licenses. Is more or less the same. We recommend you to go to the frequently asked questions and check everything there. And if you have any question, please send an email to this direction, vnc-microsoft-ext@vmware.com, and someone from VMware will answer your questions, or just redirect to someone that could do it, or even if it's a sales thing. Last thing that I want to point is about the sizing for Horizon on VMware Cloud on AWS. We have a tool, it's called TCO. Probably is famous because we have TCO for different of our products, where you can go and add some information and it will give you, which is more or less the size that you will need in the future. And this is important because you have to consider not the actual needs, maybe the future ones, because you can start to establish one environment and see if in the future you need to grow, or you have a project in every 2 or 3 months, you will have certain number of new users. You can decide which type of workloads do you need and which type of pods you will construct and which type of requirements for the VNC model. Okay, so you can gather the information from your actual running VDA and you can use that to size in the future deployments. It's always better to choose conservative sizing numbers and ramp up rather than oversubscribe. It means if it's for 2,000 desktops, you can use one pod, but if it's for more or less, just go for a second pod. And now we are ending, and let's go with some collateral information that you can get on our websites. So the main topic, the main goal, the main direction is Horizon on VMware Cloud and AWS architecture. In this website, you will find a lot of information: deployments, scalability, infrastructure, how you can do everything. This is updated every certain time with the new things. So it's better to go to this one than use the typical PDF, which is correct, but every single time we are updating things. Also, it's recommended to you to use regularly our knowledge base and the articles that we have inside. You will have there how to fix things, how to resolve some issues, and also, for example, how to open tickets to our support, and just notice about different things that we can find in the product in the next time. Also, you will have the VMware Cloud text thumb page where you will find a lot of information: demos, hands-on labs, user experience, use cases, and so on. Finally, do we have a lot of additional resources? Yes, you can find a lot of information. For example, about VDI, you can find the solution brief, the reference architecture thing, the reference architecture in the text zone, the knowledge page, and how is Cloud VDI for VMware Cloud on AWS. Also, for VMware Cloud on AWS itself, you can find more different ways to consume the information: blogs, pods, YouTube, text zone, which is something easy to see, just a video, having someone explaining you everything. Hands-on lab, which I really recommend to you to do, is for free, and you can go from the beginning with the lighting lab, the fundamentals, or the key uses. So it's really helpful. Most of our customers are doing this before going into consider Horizon or when they are going in production. What we have also is the Cloud Customer Success Community, because it's not only managed by users that are there jumping into questions, answering others. There are also people from VMware like us answering questions actively in that website. And last but not least, what we have is the customer experience and success. This is the team where me and Christoph are working right now. We are working mainly with customers about VNC on AWS. They are leveraging this solution. And also you will be able to ask for professional service if you want people that can be hands-on on the project and do a project. This is the way to do it, through professional services. And also the learning. It's not only about certifications. You will find there a lot of trainings where you can learn about all these technologies that we were talking today. So thank you. Thank you for having us. I expect that you enjoy this session. And right now we'll have a Q&A. So please be ready to make your questions if you didn't yet in the Q&A panel, and we will be answering all of them right now. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. So let's have a look at the questions. I see some of them. So I already answered one around the term in terms of cost.
Yeah, there's one about the cost, Christoph, and I think you can answer that really quickly. Is which is the benefit of Horizon on VMware on AWS than Horizon on premises? Which is the really valuable about cost sizing?
Very, very simple answer. With VMware, you get to have a flexible consumption model, which based on a consumption-based billing. So very flexible way of delivering and consuming the service, and this is avoiding this upfront cost you may have when you deploy your infrastructure on premises. So very very simple and very interesting cost model. So you get this rapid time to value, also with the ability to automatically scale the host capacity up and down in a very short time. I would say 5 to 10 minutes for spinning up a host, and a couple of hours for an entire SDDC. So much more quicker than what you would get on premises.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Christoph. I think we have more questions, and next one could be this one. For example, is people asking about the sizing and which is the best practice. So I think we were talking about this, and there's a general rule as a best practice, and you can get up 2,000 desktops, for example, on an SDDC, and you can have up to 6 SDDCs, which means 12,000. VDIs or desktops running. So we really recommend you to go to the TCO before going in your architecture design. It's better to spend more time on the architecture thing and think about which is your actual need, how that fits on VMware Cloud and AWS, because the consuming of the VDIs is not the same as on premises. So it's good to go on the TCO, as we were talking on the documentation, and then go with a design. And also, don't try to set the minimum resources. It's better to think if will this grow, or will I have new projects in the next months or something like that. So try to think in 360, 9 months ago. So something like that will help you around the best practice. So there's no fixed rule on a paper. That's a general rule as a best practice. So we'll really encourage you to go to the TCO and take the information from your actual VDI environment or what you are looking for in the future next.
So I see also another questions coming from regarding the user experience and the capabilities we can have to consume the service everywhere in the world. So this is the beauty of the cloud, is that you can deploy your services all over the world as long as you have the services available in this region where you want to deploy your let's say services. So if it's a VDI services, then obviously, Horizon, as I said, is compatible with any region where VMC on AWS would be running. So it means that whenever you see this green circle in a city in one region in one country where VMC is available, then you can deploy your Horizon infrastructure on the top of it. So very easily to make the user closer to the infrastructure, thanks to the cloud delivery model. No worries about that.
Okay, that's really nice, and I think we are still opening, and there is a roadmap about continuing deploying VMs in AWS in different regions.
Sure.
Still opening ones. Yeah, that's fancy. And more questions on technical details. People is asking about, we were talking about the NSX, which is our network framework on VMware Cloud. And there are people asking about if we don't have NSX on premises, and you're talking about NSX on VMware Cloud and AWS, what should I do? Do I need to deploy NSX to change my layer or something on-premises? And the answer is no, you don't need to do that. What you will have is, and it's just for free, the edge to connect your NSX, your on-premises environment through a NSX endpoint to your cloud environment. So you don't need to change your architecture. You don't need to change everything. What do you have? You can adapt what you have easily and connect everything to different points. As Christoph said, for example, right now, you can deploy different pods in different regions. So for example, customers that have branch offices spread all around the world is, I don't know, people from Australia connecting to Americas or things like that. You can deploy SDDCs where there is the VMware Cloud and AWS data center more close to the region. So you don't need that. You will get a lot of value from NSX. And also, at some point, you can deploy also NSX on your layer. That's the end of the goal at the end, having everything with micro-segmentation.
Yeah, sure. And one point also, which is very important to call out, is that the Horizon architecture is the same on-premises and in VMware Cloud on AWS. So meaning the deployment and management experience remain the same across on-premises sites and in the cloud. There's no differences. So which makes the solutions quite easy to manage, because you don't change your the way you are doing this on-prem and in the cloud are really the same. So you don't change your way. You don't change the management. So yeah.
Okay, so you mean that the speed up is really fast, no? Because if your technical IT team knows which is on premises, they can use the same knowledge to do that on the cloud. Is that right, Christoph? Or do they need to learn something new, new trainings or whatever, or it's more complex,
really.
or it's really easy?
It's not because you switch to the cloud that you have to revamp your on-premises, people or IT managers or people who are managing already this infrastructure has to learn new things. Really, it's not like you were leveraging some new cloud services like AWS or Azure. So there is a question I see about the multiple data center. When using multiple data centers, how can we replicate the data? So it's a good question. So obviously, when you have multiple data centers, you may have also multiple data which are related to the user. So we call that user data. And in user data, when we are talking about that, we are talking about user profiles, we are talking about shared folders, we are talking about any information or data that are related to each of the users. So you need to have, and you must have, this storage replication mechanism at one point to replicate the data. And one replication solutions that you can leverage is the Microsoft DFS solution. And especially when you have multiple data centers, you can leverage that technology in a hub and spoke topology. And in that matter, all of the data would be available everywhere in the world. Wherever your services is implemented, then the users can keep up, working remotely, and he will find his data because they are replicated between data centers. So yeah, we support that.
Yeah, that's cool. So we have one more question. Not sure to get the point if one customer that moved to VMC and AWS recently, how can they optimize the cost for VNC? And I think if it's referring to Horizon on VNC, is just doing the right side thing. I think it's what you need to spend is time thinking in what is your need, what you want to achieve, which is your goal, and then decide how many hosts, how many clusters, how many SDDCs you will need. We usually recommend to use SDDCs just only to do VDI, but we have a lot of customers mixing things on the SDDCs. There's always an opportunity to improve and to test new things, and that's something that you can do. So probably you can have let's say book for some number of hosts for some time, but you can use something like, for example, pay-per-use. Let's say is you will pay as you go. For example, if this month you need 100 more users and you need one more host, and the next month you will no need it, you can just delete that. So really is try to using, for example, other tools like vRealize Operation Manager on cloud, which will help you to get the information. What are you really consuming? Which is your need? Is storage? Is CPU? Is memory? And then you will get more or less a report where you will see if you can downgrade your environment. Some customers do that. So this is just grow and going down and just churn or not. It depends on your needs. That's the good thing of VMware Cloud on AWS. Is not that you will book 100 hosts and then you will have to pay for the rest of your life. So that's simply that. I think
Yeah, exactly, Pablo. Just to finish on that point, VROps solution is also supporting VMC, and you can leverage all of the cool reports and dashboards of VROps, especially when it comes to optimize the workloads and as well as finding room for optimization. It's the same kind of reports that you run on premises if you know VROps. So whenever you do it will propose you to size down the VMs whenever you consume not all of the RAM and storage you have allocated to your VMs. So that could be one way to optimize. And also keep in mind that it's a cloud solution that's leveraging a lot of automation. So whenever you will, we have this EDRS feature that will, scale in and scale out automatically whenever the workload capacity which is needed is changing. So yeah, obviously these are two different ways, but this is at the beginning one way to start optimizing the cost as well.
Yeah. Okay. That's a really good point, Christoph. And I think we are just ending. So thank you so much for your questions. If there are no more questions, I think we can close the session. Thank you for having us. I think with Christoph and I, you have right now a better idea about Horizon on VMware Cloud and AWS. You lose your fears, and right now you have a more clear idea about how we can do things, and that's so. So thank you. I don't know if Christoph, you have something more to add, and then we can close the session.
Thank you very much. I would say it was an interesting session. I hope everybody enjoyed the session, and we'll see you in the next one. We have a lot of webcast series planned, and they're going to be cool ones in the next quarters. So see you around, and have a nice end of your day. And thank you very much for connecting today.
Yeah. Thank you so much. You will have the link for available on the recording, so you can review as many times as you want, and that's all. Thank you guys for having us. See you on the next webcast.